From items that were in the game for only a few minutes to a hidden Minecraft collab, these are 50 things you didn't know existed in Fortnite, starting with Cypher's Trap Tower. Back in the day, Cypher was known for his epic Trap Tower eliminations, so when it was time for Cypher's Icon Cup, Fortnite knew it was the perfect time to make it an exotic item. This item works similarly to a Portafort, but because it was exclusive to this tournament, it was only in the game for 3 hours, and it's never returned. Hopefully Fortnite will bring it back someday, and the same could be said for Laser's Flint Knock. Laser Beam is all about memes and chaos, so when Fortnite gave him an Icon Cup, they had to bring back his signature weapon, the Flint Knock. But this wasn't just any Flint Knock, it was the Laser Exotic, and it packed way more punch. Believe it or not, in the files, it was codenamed the Yeet Knock, and when eliminating someone, it would say you yeeted them in the elimination feed. This item had extra knockback, did more damage, and reloaded quicker, making it a huge upgrade from the OG Flint Knock, but just like Cypher's Trap Tower, it was only available during the cup for 3 hours, and then it was gone, never to be seen again. Another item you probably never knew was in Fortnite is cash. Yeah, I'm not kidding. In Season X, Fortnite added cash to the game. Now you're probably thinking, if they added cash, what could I buy with it? Well, nothing. That's right, this was added to the game as an ammo type with no purpose other than to complete Pandora challenges, and it was removed after just 15 days. It's not the only ammo type you probably didn't know about, because yeah, we all know Fortnite added the Zapatron way back in Season 1, but what most players don't know is that it actually had its own secret ammo type, energy cells. These were removed quickly with the Zapatron, and when Fortnite brought the Zapatron back for OG, they completely changed it, making it use sniper ammo instead. And because of this, energy cells are probably gone forever. Now when you think of rare items, you probably think of skins like Travis Scott or Black Knight, but what if I told you there's something way more rare? Back in Chapter 1 Season 6, Fortnite did a promotion that added the Embers contrail, but unlocking it was nearly impossible for most players. To get it, you had to complete challenges in a participating PC cafe in Korea. Yeah, unless you live there, you're basically out of luck. Because of that, it's one of the rarest items in Fortnite history, and most players have never even heard of it. Another item you probably didn't know existed was a secret reference to Minecraft. When Fortnite first launched, part of its original promotion included banners for tons of big content creators like PewDiePie, Muselk, and Vanos Gaming. But there was one banner that stood out, a creator who chose a Minecraft watermelon as their icon. It's no longer available, but honestly, it's wild that it made it into the game at all. But a real collab you probably forgot about happened during the original Stranger Things crossover. Sure, we all remember Chief Hopper and the Demigorgon joining the game, but what you might not remember is Fortnite actually adding Scoops Ahoy ice cream shop inside Mega Mall. On top of that, they added secret upside down portals throughout Mega Mall. It's really a cool detail most players forgot about. Not gonna lie, those portals were kinda creepy, but not as creepy as the alien parasites. When these were in the game, they would latch on to animals, NPCs, and even players, and if one attached to you, it actually changed your in-game voice, making it all echoey and alien-like. Okay, this was one of the creepiest but funniest experiences I've ever had on Fortnite. Speaking of funny features, that same season we got the inflatable. This wacky item turned your character into a giant inflatable cow suit that let you bounce around, roll down hills, and even avoid fall damage. It was basically a cartoon escape button, and it was hilarious to use. This was one of the best mobility items in the game, and if you used it at the right time, you could pull off some pretty wild plays, but sadly, it was only available for one season. Another feature that was only in the game for one season is sand tunneling. Back in Chapter 2 Season 5, you could sink into the sand and move around underground to sneak past enemies or rotate without being seen. It was a super useful mechanic when it actually worked, but it was pretty buggy and got disabled a bunch of times and eventually just disappeared. Now here's an item almost no one remembers, Raptor's Claw. It was only in the Impossible Escape LTM where players had to rebuild a broken chopper to escape. If you found a Raptor's Claw, you could trade it into a Huntmaster NPC and they'd reveal hidden chopper parts on your map, key to finishing the mission. It wasn't a weapon, just a rare mission critical item that's never returned since. That season we also got the Hunter's Cloak. This item let you mask your scent so animals wouldn't attack you, great if you wanted to tame wolves or bears, but honestly, the animals weren't really that threatening to begin with, so the cloak ended up feeling kinda useless for most players. It was short-lived too, vaulted in Season 7, making it one of the most forgettable items of all time. Next up is the Bunker Chest, introduced in Fortnite Primal. What made these special? Each one dropped 5 guaranteed items, including at least one epic or legendary weapon, plus ammo, materials, and bars. Since they only appeared in some secret spots, they were a great way to score high tier loot if you knew where to find them, but they were vaulted in Season 7 and haven't returned since. But it's not just items you didn't know about, because we also have locations, and next we have the block. Alongside the release of Creative Mode in Chapter 1 Season 7, we also saw the addition of the block replacing risky reels. The block was a dedicated space to show off the coolest fan-made locations, adding a new drop spot every week, but once Chapter 1 ended, the OG block was never to be seen again. It wasn't as short-lived as our next location though, because next we have Moisty Palms. In Season X, Fortnite brought back a bunch of OG locations, but with a twist. Instead of just returning Moisty Mire, they fused it with Paradise Palms, creating Moisty Palms, but this wasn't your average POI. Like a lot of Season X locations, it had its own gimmick, and this one was straight up hilarious. If you crouch, you'd randomly turn into a prop, just like in Prop Hunt, so 1 second you'd be looting, then the next you're a toilet hiding behind a truck. But the next item was only available in OG Playground mode, the Spiky Stadium. When thrown, it spawned a giant arena, packed with damage traps, bouncers, and even vending machines. This made for the perfect setup for chaotic minigames with friends. Another Playground item you probably didn't know about is the Porta Challenge. This was an early Playground exclusive item that when thrown would spawn a full minigame for target practice, building challenges, or even an obstacle course. This item was meant to help players train and improve, but barely anyone used it, and it quietly disappeared along with Playground mode. But the next feature wasn't something in-game, it was actually a secret live event in the item shop. The background changed and it turned into a full-on mini event right inside the menu. It only lasted a short time, so if you're there for it, you know how cool it was. Hopefully Fortnite brings back more surprises like this in the future. Another item shop feature that would be cool to see come back is community choice. For 1 or 2 days, players could vote between 3 different cosmetics, and whichever one got the most votes was added to the item shop for 24 hours. It was a cool way to bring back fan favorites or give rare skins another shot, but like a lot of great ideas, Fortnite quietly vaulted the feature, and we haven't seen it since. Another thing that ended up being scrapped was the annual pass. This was a leaked prototype that would have given players bundles for the next 4 seasons, plus exclusive cosmetics like outfits, back blings, and a pickaxe, all in one big yearly purchase. The whole idea was quietly cancelled, and many believe it eventually evolved into what we know now as Fortnite Crew. But the next edition was only in the game for a single event, the Sunburst Gauntlet, and it was used to fight off the beast during the final boss battle. It was actually a really cool weapon, but it never returned after, so if you didn't play the event, you probably didn't even know it existed. But the next item was only in the game for less than 30 minutes, the Eye of the Storm Tracker. This item was used to let you see the next storm circle before anyone else, but it had a different icon in the inventory than what actually appeared in game, and the model was just a copy of the skirmish back bling. Because of that, most players believe it was added by accident, but the idea stuck around and we eventually saw this same feature re-implemented with the Storm Scout sniper rifle. But what if I told you Fortnite once added double jump to the game? Back in Chapter 2 Season 2, Fortnite introduced the Spy Games LTM, and one of the unlockable tech upgrades actually gave players the ability to double jump. It was a fun and unique mechanic, but once the mode ended, it was gone forever, and most players completely forgot it ever existed. However, there was one more item that allowed you to double jump, the Jedi Training Lightsaber. In Chapter 4 Season 4, Fortnite brought lightsabers back, but not in their typical style. This time, lightsabers had special abilities like increased speed, double jump, and force push. The lightsabers in-game now actually have these same abilities. By entering through rift gates, you can get abilities like Force Lightning and Force Throw. But when lightsabers first came to the game in Chapter 2 Season 1, they were completely broken. When these were first added, the block ability never had a limit, meaning as long as you're facing towards your opponent, you're nearly impossible to hit, making these one of the most important items to have in your loadout. Thankfully, it was eventually patched, but for a while, lightsaber fights were pure chaos. Another item that launched in a broken state was the OG minigun. The original version wasn't anything like the one we have in Fortnite OG today, because when it first dropped, it had no cooldown. That meant you could spray endlessly, tearing through builds and players without ever overheating. Because of this, in Season 7, Fortnite decided to patch it by adding a 6-second cooldown, making it much more balanced. But one item that definitely was not balanced was the OG pump shotgun. While most players love the pump, in update version 1.8, Fortnite accidentally removed fall off damage, basically turning the pump into a sniper. You could hit for full damage from insane distances, and for a short time, the pump was one of the most overpowered weapons we've ever seen. Another thing players don't remember about early Fortnite are the old medkits. Not only did they lack features like walking while healing or the updated animation, but they were actually a common rarity back then. And it wasn't just medkits, even big pots used to be gray. Definitely a weird sight looking back, but it made sense as all heals and shields were the same rarity. The big shield isn't the only one that got changed though, because in early Fortnite, mini shields worked a little differently. Today you can only carry a stack of 6 minis, but back in the day, you could actually hold 10. This led to build fights going on forever, so to balance things out, Fortnite made a change to shield stacking, bumping big pots up from 2 to 3 and mini shields down from 10 to 6. But on April Fool's 2019, Fortnite gave impulse grenades a massive buff, and no one saw it coming. For just one day, these things could launch players way farther, turning fights into pure chaos. Although it was overpowered, it was also hilarious, and hopefully Fortnite will do more things like this. Next up is Cupid's crossbow, a limited time bow that was basically the classic crossbow but with a Valentine's Day twist. First added way back in Chapter 1, it stuck around until Season 3 and then disappeared. While it may be gone now, it's definitely one of those rare Fortnite weapons fans love to remember. But one thing players would rather forget is when Fortnite made our characters talk in the lobby. This feature synced your character's mouth movements to your voice chat, which sounded cool in theory, but honestly, it just looked kinda weird. Another feature that sounded good but failed in practice is text-to-speech friend request. During one livestream, Summit1G got trolled with non-stop friend request notifications, so Fortnite definitely needed to change this one.
Cool. Someone wants to be friends.
Yes, epic. This was a great idea. Thank you so much.
It was a wild moment that showed how even simple features can turn into chaotic trolling. Next up is the Kingsman umbrella. You could use this item to glide and even avoid fall damage, and it also worked as a melee weapon with hits that stacked damage and a charged attack that could break structures. Although this umbrella had some great aspects, overall it was pretty forgettable. Not as forgettable as the bounty pucks. These were exclusive to the Mando's Bounty LTM and helped you track your targets and showed you how much their bounty was worth. By no means was it a bad item, but since it was limited to just that mode, most players never even saw one in action. But a feature that was actually pretty cool came in Chapter 4, augments. These gave players unique buffs and abilities each match, shaking up gameplay and letting you tailor your playstyle on the fly. From faster healing to enhanced mobility, augments added a fresh layer of strategy that many fans really enjoyed. Sadly though, with the start of Chapter 5, this feature was removed, and to this day it still hasn't been brought back. It's not the only feature Fortnite abandoned. Back in Chapter 3, they added timber pines you could break down to ride across water, or could even be used to damage opponents. It was a fun mechanic that didn't stick around long, but definitely left an impression on those who tried it. But we haven't just seen features removed, because we've also seen an entire game mode taken out of the game, imposters. This Among Us style mode let players complete tasks or secretly sabotage and eliminate others, but despite being a fun twist, it quietly disappeared from the game in Chapter 3 and hasn't returned since. But one thing most players don't know is that it was actually supposed to launch with its own skins. These outfits would have been reskins of Agent Jones wearing different colored suits, similar to the astronauts in Among Us. Unfortunately, these skins were were scrapped and never made it to the game. They're not the only outfits that were scrapped before release, because next up we have the F1 skins. Fortnite was set to collaborate with major Formula 1 teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, and others. The outfits were designed to represent each team's branding, but for whatever reason, the collab was shelved and the skins never made it into the game. But what if I told you Fortnite was taken offline for an entire country? Back in 2018, Fortnite launched a special version of the game in China, but due to strict local laws, it was heavily modified. The skulls were removed, Battle Pass and the item shop were made completely free, and players couldn't spend any real money. Despite the changes, the servers were officially shut down in 2021, marking the end of Fortnite China. Another thing Fortnite quietly stopped doing was animated loading screens. They first started experimenting with them in Chapter 1, with two standout examples, one for Lynx in the Season 7 Battle Pass, and another for Hybrid in Season 8. But for whatever reason, Epic never kept it going. No new animated loading screens have been added since, making those two a forgotten bit of Fortnite history. Speaking of loading screens, next up we have the hidden battle stars. Back in Chapter 1, each week came with a secret battle star hidden somewhere on the map, and the only way to find it was through clues hidden in that week's loading screen. Sadly, after Chapter 1, Epic quietly removed the feature, and it never made a return. But something I think most players are glad Fortnite removed is the Infinity Blade. If you weren't around during Season 7, you might not know just how chaotic this thing was. It was a mythic melee weapon that gave you massive health and shield, let you leap across the map, and could tear through structures and players with ease. It was so overpowered it even ruined a tournament, and Epic ended up bolting it just days after its release, and honestly, most players were relieved. Another item that was kinda OP was the thermal fish. Not only did it heal you for 15 health, but it also gave you thermal vision for 30 seconds, letting you easily spot enemies through trees, builds, and the storm. While it wasn't always a popular item, in the right hands it could give a huge advantage. But it wasn't as good as Lil Whip's special serve. This wasn't your average consumable. It instantly healed you for 100 health and 100 shield, making it one of the strongest healing items ever added. It was basically a chug jug you could take in 1 second, and technically, if you could find them, you could stack 15 of these. But next, we have a back bling that Fortnite had to remove from players' lockers, Gunner. This pet back bling dropped in the item shop for 1,000 V-Bucks, but it stirred controversy because it looked almost identical to the Battle Pass pet, Bonesy. The only difference was Gunner wore a yellow ski mask, but it blended into his fur and was barely visible. Because of this confusion, Fortnite decided to remove Gunner from the game and refunded everyone who purchased it. But at least it got to release in the first place, because Gemini didn't even have a chance. This outfit was leaked back in Chapter 1 Season 8, but never officially made it to the game, and many believe this outfit was redesigned as the Astro Assassin, and because of this, Gemini will likely never release. But next, we have an item that almost nobody has actually seen in game, the Mythic Mushroom. This item would give you full shield in just 1 second, but there was one problem. The Mythic Mushroom had a 1 in 10,000 chance of spawning in game, and that's assuming you actually find it. Because of this, it's one of the rarest items to find in game of all time. It's not the only rare mushroom though, because next we have Bud the Mushroom. Bud was an AI introduced in Chapter 2, first appearing for just 1 day in Season 2, then returning again in Season 8. You could find it in Weeping Woods, and if you danced near it, you could wake it up. Once awake, feeding it 100 wood would make it follow you around, healing your health and shield over time for up to 10 minutes, as long as it didn't bug out or disappear. But that was 50 things you didn't know existed in Fortnite, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like the one on screen now, and I'll see you there.